Hi, this is Drew Thomason from Dell Engineering. Today I wanted to walk you through a SUSE Virtualization implementation. This demo is meant as a companion to the white paper that I wrote, and the idea here is to give you an overview of the environment without having to go into the depths of the paper. Now, SUSE Harvester is one of many virtualization solutions out there. Now, Harvester is integrated directly with CSI drivers so that you can provision enterprise storage, in this case the PowerMax, to your environment when you're creating virtual machines and snapshots, as well as cloning. So let's start with the environment itself. We'll go to the CLI. So this is my Bastion server. The implementation of SUSE is done with an ISO. You install it onto different setups are possible, with the different cloud implementations. This is just bare metal, so it's a local environment. And I have 3 nodes in this setup. So if you're going to do 3 nodes, you want to make sure you're using control plane for all of them, because you want full HA in case one of them goes down or 2 of them goes down, it can still operate. After the initial implementation, I went in and installed the CSI driver. So if I look into my pods for my namespace of PowerMax, we'll see here I have my controller and my 3 nodes, which are representing the 3 nodes of the Harvester setup. When you install this, what the CSI driver does is it goes out to the Unisphere environment and it creates the hosts for you. So here are my 3 different hosts. And then when you begin to provision, you get storage groups, and storage groups representing the different service levels depending on the storage classes. So if we look at our storage classes, I have a few here for PowerMax. A bronze one, and these 2 are actually both diamond. So let's move over to the UI. So when you do the initial installation, you get a local UI. So this is just the Harvester UI. This UI is just for our single cluster. So our local cluster here, our 3 hosts, PMAX 1, 4, and 7. And over here in the menu, you have access to all the different categories and components, virtual machines, volumes, as well as backups and snapshots and the monitoring, which I'll show you in a minute. So this works very well if you're just doing a single implementation of Harvester. If you have multiple clusters, though, rather than use a separate UI for each of them, which is what this requires you to do, SUSE recommends you use Rancher Prime. And so Rancher Prime is another implementation which then allows you to ingest or import these different SUSE clusters that you have. So the Rancher Prime login looks very similar here. So let's log in. Now, Rancher Prime gets deployed on its own Kubernetes environment. So here you can see my cluster, local cluster. This local one is actually a K3 setup. So this is where I've installed my Rancher Prime environment. So you have the option of either using a K3s or an RK2 setup in order to deploy. This can be done on physical servers. It can be done on virtual servers. You don't want to deploy this on the SUSE Harvester that you implemented, because then there's all sorts of networking issues. So this should be a completely separate environment. But once you install this, what you can do is you can install an extension for Harvester. And this extension is what allows you to import the other clusters. So if I come out to my virtualization management, you can see here I have this import existing button. And then here I can come out and import all the different clusters I have. Now in this setup, I only have one, so I'm only having one here listed. If I had more than that, they'd list here. If I click on this cluster, you can see a very familiar menu set if I jump back here into the local one. So you can see that essentially they're the same. This one has RBAC, which that one doesn't. But otherwise, you have access to the same information. It's just that it's in a single location here. So I can come in and look at my different hosts I have. I have virtual machines listed here, all the different volumes that get created. And I have access to creation of networks. You can see here I have a couple of networks, the default management network, as well as a new network in case I want to import new NICs that I install into the host. I also have virtual machine networks. So I have two different VLANs here so I can deploy my virtual machines and use those so I can access them. Now the virtual machines here, I can create them right from this interface. Right? And so we'll give this a name, and we'll just give this a CPU and a memory here. And let's look at the volumes. So our first volume was always going to be where our CD is going to be, where we're going to do the ISO. So we're going to grab one of these for our ISO so that we can install an operating system. And then we're going to add a volume, and here we're going to be able to specify a PowerMax storage class. So I'm going to use the bronze one because this is going to be the boot volume. And as I said, you don't need as much performance, so bronze is perfectly acceptable. And we'll set that to 50 gig. And then you can set up if you need to set up different networks here. So if you wanted to use one of our other networks here for the VLANs, we could do that. And then all sorts of scheduling options down here. So you also have the capability here to edit as YAML. So if you prefer to actually have it as a modified file, you can do that too. But we'll leave it here in the full UI. And it's going to start deploying. You can see here that you have access immediately to a console. So I can go to my web VNC console here. So here it's automatically going to boot to my ISO so that I can install Rocky. I can also issue from here snapshots. I can take a virtual machine snapshot here if I want to. And out here, if I want to come out and look at the snapshots, I can see here the test was progressing. If I open this snapshot and look at my volumes, so it took both of my volumes for me. If I go into the show configuration, here you can see it's utilizing my PowerMax snapshot class. So it's using the array to do the snapshots, which is great because then it doesn't require any extra volumes on the PowerMax. It's just a point in time. The other thing I can do is I can do migrations. So from here, if I want to migrate this particular virtual machine off of PMax 4, and let's stick it on PMax 7. And you can watch here as it migrates over. Now it's on PMax 7. In Unisphere, you can come out and look at the volumes if you want to. So inside of my bronze environment here, this is my new 50 gig that got created for my new virtual machine. And these will all be labeled and tagged, so you'll always know it's coming from a CSI. Finally, the other capability that you have here is all sorts of monitoring. So down on the bottom here, you have access to all these different metrics. Now it integrates directly with Grafana, so you can get a complete set of dashboards with the Grafana. It will actually have an entire pre-configured set. You can certainly create your own, but it's extensive, all the different ones it has. From what you traditionally have for virtual machine access, like if you wanted to look at the virtual machine detail, right? But then, at the same time, you can look at all the different Kubernetes objects. So if you want to look at the networking, you can do that. If you want to come out and check out the pods, you want to look at the different rancher pods, you can do that. So the breadth of the monitoring and the alerts and the metrics is extensive. So when you combine SUSE Virtualization with the PowerMax, you got the best of both worlds. You've got a complete virtualization solution where you can do virtual machines, you can do containers, but on the back end, you've got the PowerMax. So you have, the resiliency, scalability, you have access to snapshot technology, and in the future, you'll have access to all the different types of CSM modules like replication. Thank you.